Destiny 2, Warframe. These are the types of games that come to mind when playing a game like the First Descendant. Now, the First Descendant was a game that I had seen ages ago when it was like first announced. Not when it was first announced, but rather when smaller channels were making videos about this weird game that might overthrow Destiny. This game might overthrow Destiny. It was a lot of the titles were like that. There was like a ton of videos back in the day that all said the exact same thing. They got to try out the First Descendant and they were talking about it being a little bit better than Destiny 2. They were beta testers. This is when the beta was still out. Before even the announcement for the First Descendant was there, that's when I was keeping my eye on this game. I was trying to get into the beta program and I wasn't able to. Regardless, now that the game's out, what are my thoughts? Is it actually better than Destiny 2? Is it a copy of Destiny 2 and Warframe? Is it a love child between those two games? What is this game? Well, from my first 4 hours of the game, I did not come to the conclusion that everyone else has and says that, well, this is like a love child between Warframe and Destiny 2. Unfortunately, or fortunately for that matter, whichever way you want to look at it, the game is rather a love child between Warframe and Outriders. Yes, Outriders. How many people are asking the question, huh? What's that? What is Outriders? I kid you not, this is a game that has a semi-MMO kind of feel. It takes place in a different planet. Long story short, Outriders is a game that has almost the exact same gameplay as the First Descendant. And this game came out a long time before. 2019 is when this game had come out. So I'm probably surprising a lot of people here saying that this is a love child between those two games, when in reality, yes, it is. It has the speed movement of Warframe, the mods of Warframe that they have with the weapon mods and the Descendant mods, but it has the gameplay, physical gameplay, meaning the shooting and the ability usage of Outriders, not Destiny. The only thing that really is even remotely close to Destiny here is maybe the abilities, and it's maybe even that because of how much this is closely related to Outriders and Warframe. The biggest part of this game's experience is, well, how much you can spot the Outrider and the Warframe reference in the gameplay. It's throughout the entire thing, meaning the gameplay as well. The other aspect that it takes from a different game is, and I was trying to get to this while I was streaming it, the game called Black Desert Online. How many people know that game as well? Because that's another game with arguably the best action combat in any MMO is Black Desert Online, because it's an MMO with really high graphics plus really excessive action combat to the point where it is not even an MMO at that point. You can't even call it that when you're seeing the gameplay. Regardless, Black Desert Online is an actual thing. This game takes a lot from that in terms of its visual design, be it the characters, be it the outfit designs. It's like I'm playing a class from Black Desert Online, since Black Desert Online has individual classes and each of those classes are gender based, so you would only have one class that are only for a women character. You can customize your character, but that character would only be that one gender. That is what Black Desert Online was, and this is also kind of what First Descendant is, but it's taking the idea more from a Warframe. So you can see that the First Descendant is not a game on its own. It's a game that has taken a lot of inspiration from multiple different titles and then combining it into its own little mesh together. This is the one thing that I've understood when I was playing the First Descendant. It did not feel boring, and that's my main point here, is that this game did not feel boring. It definitely gave me the same feel as what Destiny did when I first played it. It's a lot of busy work. You go here, you protect something. You go here, you escort something, or you transport a bomb to another location. This is how the quests always go through when you're playing the early game of an MMO, until you get to like the really big boss fights and the awesome combat between different types of enemies. At times it felt completely polished. Like I'm not even playing an MMO at this point. I'm playing a really polished game. But there are moments where it does end up, you can see through the cracks of the spectacular graphics and you see what is really there, being that it's not exactly entirely polished. You can start to see, there's the MMO. However, the progression through this game is a lot better than you would put in Destiny 2 or any Destiny game for that matter, because when you play Destiny, right, Destiny 2 specifically, you have the New Light quest, and that New Light quest, once you finish it, it doesn't really give you the entirety of what the game has to offer, or gets to show you what the entire game has to offer. All it does is gets you accustomed to how you play the game. In the First Descent, on the other hand, you're not just done with the tutorial and they leave you to your whims and wishes. You go on continuing a main story quest. You're going and opening up locations due to a main story quest. The locations aren't just open up to you. You have to do the main story quest to be able to go to these locations to then eventually unlock more descendants, because this is sort of how you go through the First Descendant. The First Descendant has the same kind of vibe as Warframe instead, where this is the case, where your goal really is to get more frames, more Warframe to play with. That's the whole idea, is you grind materials, you grind bosses to get the things needed to create a new Warframe. That is basically the gameplay loop of the First Descendant that I've been able to understand with my first 4 hours. Is it good? Is it fun? Is it exciting? Yes, 100% all the way through. It was engaging for the first 4 hours of the game. Never was there a point where I was like, okay, the story now is a bit boring. The activities I've been doing is now become very, very tedious. It doesn't feel tedious to do the exact same thing here because of the way the game is made. Now, personally, I have a very soft spot for smooth movement. That's why Sucker Punch is still one of my favorite video game companies with the games they have made. Every single game that Sucker Punch has put out has that sputtery smooth movement of like flowing across the ground. Some would say it's sliding movement, but it is, rather than sliding movement, it's more so just really buttery smooth. You can see it in Infamous, Sly Cooper. You can even see it Ghost of Tsushima. They were all great. I didn't mind spending hours just running from location to location because there wasn't a hindrance to me as the player when you're moving through these locations. It's a lot smoother than when you would play Red Dead Redemption, where it's a realistic movement but rigid. You can't move as freely as you want to. This game has that, and because you have tedious tasks over and over, that smooth movement really does help. It doesn't hinder your experience and hinder your fun for this game. Regardless though, this game was a very fun experience. Am I going to be playing more of it? Yes. Is it going to replace Destiny 2? I don't really think so. This is the thing that I've understood about MMO fan bases or MMO players in general. Their main MMO that is able to keep their attention for a very, very long time, that MMO will never die in their eyes. Why do you think they're still World of Warcraft players? Even now, years later, where the game looks the exact same as it did back then, is because that's their main MMO. They will try out other MMOs, they will never move on from it. They will always come back to it and play more of it, do another character, go through another campaign, play it over and over and over, because that's their game. Now, that's why I said it, since Destiny players are just the exact same thing, they're not really gonna move on from Destiny until there is a massive drought of content in Destiny. Then there is maybe a movement, not to this game though, because it's going to fall into the same vein as Black Desert Online, where it has some excellent combat, excellent visual style. There's a lot of great things about Black Desert Online, but it has a shit story, and so that game has its fans, but it's the type of fans that would hop on, do their dailies, and hop on, because that's what this game feels like. It's going to be a game where you hop on, do your dailies, hop off, because you're hopping on just to do your dailies and then hopping off. Maybe do one Colossi battle and then hop off, because that's basically the same with Warframe. You would do your grind for the day, and then that would be the end of your experience with Warframe for the time being, especially when you reach to that levels of end game. When you reach the levels of the end game, you would end up doing the grind more so than enjoying the game. The grind to get more frames, the grind to get more descendants. That's how the experience of First Descendant very much feels like. It took that from Warframe and everything else from every other game. Regardless, the First Descendant, great game. I enjoyed myself for the first couple of hours. I will be coming back and forth to this game just to see how it evolves and where it will very much end up. Will I replace it entirely for Destiny 2? Not really. But anyways, First Descendant, not a bad game.